Hey, what up everybody? This is Stevie Breach. These are going to be, I guess, add-ons to the Slammiversary video as we get closer to TNA Slammiversary coming up right around the corner. It seems that TNA is bringing back their gimmick of a Hall of Fame. I think last year with Bound for Glory, it was a real big slap in the face to all those people who bought the travel packages or went down to San Diego or were lucky enough to live there where a pay-per-view came. And this was for the travel package. We bought the platinum one. We sat front row, and it was part of the things that we went there. Kurt Angle was put into the Hall of Fame last year as the second member of the Hall of Fame, joining Sting. And it seems that Kurt Angle is going to come out there and pass the tradition on and insert somebody else into the TNA Wrestling Hall of Fame. I don't know. From a lot of rumors out there, it seems that TNA might be able to just slide on and move forward. It seems that Spike TV didn't make a play after SmackDown after all, and that's one of the things that's going to keep them in business. Because more than likely, Spike is going to step up to the plate, and they're going to dump money into TNA to keep them in the rating on Thursday nights on their television. That was one of the biggest things that was keeping them alive. Bob Carter has said that he's not going to put any more money into this wrestling company because they've already put so much and they're not getting anything back out of it. Even though Bob has tried to sell this company on one attempt that almost went down, and just last month when the production people threatened to go on strike and walk out, he was the one who stepped up to the table and signed the checks in order to keep them there. Because if you don't have production people, you're not going to be able to make a show, and that's not good not to be turning in shows for Spike TV to a company who's not doing it. But my only thoughts about the TNA Hall of Fame is, who are they going to put in? Sting has left the company and gone back to WWE. Well, not officially. We've talked about that before, but someday, Sting's going to be there, I guess. Kurt Angle's still there. It's good to have him on the show, since so many people have said, with his surgery, he's going to get worked on, and then he's going to go sign with WWE. I've heard some people say he's going to go back and be some sort of performer. Some people say he's just going to go down to the Performance Center and become a trainer. Who knows what the future will hold. Honestly, in my opinion, Kurt Angle is such a warrior as a person and as an athlete. I think he's going to want to compete on the highest level until the day he just can't do it anymore. I don't think he would be, having surgeries in order to make his body better if it wasn't for, the reason that he wants to compete. And I think that he's going to be one of those guys that's going to be out there till his dying day. Wrestling, I wouldn't be surprised if he stays in TNA. But, honestly, in my opinion, there's only two names that should be going into TNA at the top of the list. One is Jeff Jarrett, your co-founder, your builder, the architect of what has gone down. I don't even know how many times Jarrett won the title in TNA. I would have to guess a number like 12, 13, 14. It seemed like he always had the championship, and he was the guy that was trying to get people over earlier in the day using his name recognition from WWE, from WCW Nitro, and was putting guys over like AJ Styles and putting them on the list. But how do you bring back a guy? He's wink wink still with the company as a shareholder. But he's starting up a new wrestling company, which I guess is going to be on a different network. Part of his deal was that he's able to start this. It's not going to be a difference of interest, I guess you can say, or something like that. Because it's going to be on a different network. He can't negotiate with Spike TV. He couldn't steal the TNA deal or underwrite him and go against him or anything like that. But how do you bring back somebody who's starting a different company in Global Force and not have him put that over? Maybe you have him, sign something saying in his speech he won't say Global Force. He won't say, watch the company with the green ropes, or, look for me in the future in what I'm doing or something like that. But it's like TNA is going to be fighting for everything that they need in the future. And, if it's going to be, just staying on Spike TV, fighting for pay-per-view buys. Recently, you saw Ring of Honor go out there, and then they're going to start doing their own pay-per-views, which, won't be held on the same days as TNA, but still, it's like, you only have so much money for pay-per-views if you want to watch wrestling. And if 2 shows are in the same month and you know that bill's going to come, you already have your regular cable bill, which is coming, which is $100. Are you going to, give $40 to TNA to get their show, and then also pay for the Ring of Honor show, which is cheaper and is going to put on just as good of a show? You want to pay for both? I think that Ring of Honor said their shows are going to be $25. So, are you going to get both, or are you just going to get one? So many times you're fighting against it, and that's what's the WWE, with the network getting all of the pay-per-views, it's such a bargain of a deal. It just doesn't make sense for Jeff to come back, even if it's to accept an accomplishment, when he's going to be doing something else. You can't put over somebody else. I know that WWE worked out the deal for Christian to come back, and Christian seemed like he was going to go to the Hall of Fame and put over Sting and be a big part of that, because of the Sting and Christian rivalry, and Christian being such a big part of the architecture of really building him up. It was they had stolen WWE guys and made them champion before, with Raven, with Rhino, but Christian was the first guy to make you go like, wow, they stole a guy who wasn't past his peak. He was still in the prime of his career and had great matches. With AJ Styles, with Sting, with Samoa Joe, with Kurt Angle. Christian was a big time hand that would go in there. I guess you can say Christian would be number 2, but because of his WWE deal, TNA doesn't have Ric Flair to pull off that trade like they did at WrestleMania 28. Is that when he went in the Hall of Fame? With the 4 Horsemen, and they were able to use him even though he was still in TNA, even though the TNA never used him again after that. And Christian went and did the thing on the Slammiversary show, and then he ended up getting hurt, and then he just didn't go to Bound for Glory to the Hall of Fame or whatever the hell that was. But, the only other name I can think of that is out there is AJ Styles. AJ Styles, one of their biggest names, one of the guys that they slammed the door on in the last year. He won the title at Bound for Glory. It was the first time that he'd been champion there in a long time. He held the title until, I think it was January, and lost it in his last match on TNA TV to Magnus, and I think he was just gone after that. And I think that sometime around February is when I saw the writing on the wall that AJ wasn't coming back, and that is when I sort of lost all of my interest in TNA for the most part. It took a long while for me to look in the mirror and realize that, I can't be a hypocrite who's saying on, my wrestling videos that I want TNA to succeed, and at the same time just blatantly shutting the door on the company and not, paying any attention to it. AJ almost has the same thing that Jeff Jarrett has. He's not starting his own company, but he's working for 2 separate companies, New Japan Pro Wrestling. They're not on pay-per-view. They're not going to be fighting against TNA for those pay-per-view buys, but they are an iPay-per-view company. And he also is he's one of the main stars for ROH as well. Just recently working the show in Toronto and the show in New York. Even though he sort of came in as a New Japan guy, a part of the Bullet Club. It just wouldn't make sense to bring him back either at the same point, even if it's just to stand on the stage, say thank you, tell some good TNA stories. The fact to me is that I just don't understand how TNA slapped everybody in the face. They acted like the dinner, the reception didn't happen the night before when Sting came out to hand Kurt Angle the watch last year. Basically, it was just like Angle turned it down. He said he wasn't going to accept this Hall of Fame thing until he started winning again. And then all of a sudden, they went over to the UK. They had a big show. And at that point, that's when Angle accepted his Hall of Fame thing, because I think he beat Robert Roode or something like that. And it was just like, I sat there. I watched him. The acceptance speech was 2.5 minutes. It seemed like he didn't want to put the exclamation point on his career yet, but he was in the Hall of Fame. He's in the Hall of Fame. Like, I was there. I bought the package. They gave me a ticket. I sat there. I had the tux jacket on, and it is what it is. But I don't know. I don't know. I scratch my head. If I had to make a guess right now, I would guess that Samoa Joe, the biggest name in the company, you can say he's sort of like the locker room leader. When they were doing the UK tour, everybody heard the story about him standing up on the bus on the last night of the show, saying that the company was moving forward. He was proud of the company. They didn't have any sort of Ric Flair moments. The whole time everybody was together. Nobody really was a prima donna and pulled above everybody else. And even though all the names had left, and it seemed like the ship was sinking, everybody was on the up and up and moving towards trying to make TNA the best company they could. So that's my guess, is that Samoa Joe is going to be named into the TNA Hall of Fame at Slammiversary. It'd be awesome, Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle. If anybody could have a match out there with Angle, if he stayed there, I'd want to see Kurt Angle wrestle Samoa Joe 1,000 times, and in both of their careers. You can sort of look at Samoa Joe. He would have been a bigger star if it wasn't for the Kurt Angle signing. TNA was really starting to stack pieces on top of each other at that point and become a better company. They were the wrestling alternative. A lot of people were looking at what John Cena was doing and sort of becoming sick of it. The Joe's Gotta Kill You deal thing was a big deal over in TNA, and I don't know, you brought Angle in. Right off the bat, you ran the series of matches with Joe. I think they had the rubber match, and Angle ended up winning 2, and Joe won 1. And ever since then, Joe was champion again a year later, maybe 2 years later, but it wasn't the same. Joe just was looked at as a star, but he wasn't a star as big as Kurt Angle. So, yeah, that's it. TNA Hall of Fame. What do you guys think?